Welcome, Patricia of YouAreYou, Patricia Foster-McKenley. How are you doing today?
Hello, Sylvia. I'm doing very well. Thank you very much. How are you doing?
I am okay. I'm pretty happy that we've connected. You and I met through a mutual friend.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, big shout outs to Cabby, or
yes,
also known as Carrie, for linking us up. And
yes.
you've actually been a guest on our radio show, Black Connections at Hayes FM.
Fun.
So yeah, it was absolutely, it was good stuff. So we've had encounters recently, and it's so it's great to connect with you here at Social Workers Matter. And essentially, Patricia, today I just really wanted to give you an opportunity to talk about your work. I mean, you are you are particularly, you're a creative person. You do you're in sort of the poetry space and the performance poetry space, and you do that sort of work to help people. But also you are a life coach, and you do a number of things to help people with a number of issues that they may be going through. So I thought this would be a good opportunity to explore that further with you today in our chat. So let me hand over to you. Please, Patricia, introduce yourself and say something about your background and so on, and how it is you arrived at life coaching, because I know you have other skills too.
Thank you again, Sylvia. Yes, I am Patricia FosterMcKenley. So as you quite rightly said, I am a poet, so I sort of my territory is within the poetry and performance space. However, as an artist, I would call myself there's a term, the highly sensitive person. So some people may reframe that as an empath, but I see the world in a particular way, and I know there are many people like me, but also as a creative, it's important to have that space that you need for your creativity, and that can also tap into the emotional part of you, as well as accessing that part of you. You also have the world and what's going on around you, and you have to live, you have to work, and you have to balance what you do. So I've worked with a variety of people, but a lot of them are creative people who need that creative space and that creative energy to thrive, not just to survive, but to thrive.
Okay, can I just pause you a minute there, Patricia?
Sure.
Because this is also opportunity for learning as well, and I just wanted to take you back a step to tell us a bit more about what is the meaning of an empath. What does that mean to those of us who may be unaware?
Sure. An empath is a term that's used for people who are quite sensitive. There's a term called HSPs, highly sensitive people. And that term was derived by a writer. Her name has escaped me, and I've actually written an article on this. But
no matter, I have those blanks regularly. It's a bit early, but I mean, essentially, if you just sort of convey to us what the meaning, that's probably quite important.
And we tend to absorb things a lot. So people may say things, and we absorb that. If somebody is not feeling okay, you'll say to them, "How are you?" And I say, "Okay," and you say, "You're not, are you?" Because you picked up on something that they may not want to project. And then they'll say, "Yeah, you're right. How did you know that? How did you guess that?" So I suppose as well, empaths are seen as intuitive people
Yeah.
as well. So I know I am very intuitive, sometimes to my detriment. No, but no, but I get that. I think I get that from my mum. She's a very intuitive person. So I've had dreams sometimes that have come true. But other times, yeah, that's another podcast. But anyway, but but yeah, I tend to connect with people on that level. So I just recently did a counselling skills level 2 course, just to kind of focus more on that aspect of myself, so I can connect with people. So I do a part-time 9-to-5 job. So in that space, a lot of people also come to me because they feel that I can connect with them, or they find that I listen, I can easily open up. So it's something that as a young person, as a child, I
was just about to ask you, have you always known this about yourself? Wow. When did that start?
I always very sensitive as a child, and people say, "Why do you always cry all the time? Why are you always crying?" And I just thought that's me, but I just couldn't help it, and that's just how it was. But as I got older, I decided to embrace that and use that for better good, and that also I take within my writing. So I can tap on the emotional side quite well in my writing. And then where I've done personal development sessions, again, using writing, but also creating a space where people feel safe, but they can open up as well and be and explore their intuition also. So I'd like to say that I try and utilize that, but you have to have balance that as well. You have to have resilience, otherwise you just won't get through life.
Well, yeah. Yes.
So I've identified that there are, quite a few people who may feel that way, and you find that creative people tend to be quite empathic, empathetic, highly intuitive, but they need that for their creativity. They need that to tap into their writing, and I also want to encourage them to explore that, and just to see it as a superpower, not as a weakness.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, you mentioned obviously that when you reflect on your own childhood, this was always part of who you were or are. And I like what you said about you've learned over the years to embrace that part of yourself, or that part of who you are. And I do think that this is interesting, because in so many walks of life, we're often encouraged to change who we are to fit with a particular environment. I mean, what are your thoughts on that sort of thing?
I mean,
and has it happened to you?
Yeah, I think where I if I I suppose with my writing, if I'm working with people, or where people say, oh, they've been told that they need to, don't cry, don't, be quiet, we need permission to cry if we need to. We need permission to open up and rant if we need to. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to set up my services, YouAreYou, because we are who we are. That's the essence of who we are. We have a rightful space in this world, and that's who we are. We have to embrace who we are, and in coaching sessions as well, as as a coach, the answers come from the client. So that's want to emphasize as well to clients and to people I work with, that you are who you are, and you're unique, you're amazing, and don't change that, don't change your essence. If there are things that you need to change to progress, then yeah, absolutely, but not the essence of who you are, because that's your blueprint. That's, you know, there could be somebody just like you who has been told, you know, has negative messages being told to them. They may see somebody similar to them who looks like them, who has the same level of empathy and you know, there's that kind of energy, and that will give them permission to be who they are. And you know, I was speaking to someone yesterday, and they were talking about Montessori schools, Montessori nurseries, and about, you know, they give young people and children the space to be creative and to explore. And I think it's so important for young people, but also as we grow up and as adults, to maintain that part of ourselves.
I mean, I mean, absolutely. And in terms of, in the course of your work, and the people that you've met and coached along the way, be it in a session or just as an incidental, do you think are people generally receptive to that message? Are people generally receptive to your approach? What's been your experience of that? Have you had people who have challenged the way that you are approaching your work with them to be who they are?
I think, I don't know whether it's intuitively, people have come to me, have that kind of mindset or experience where they maybe they're trying to find their place or find where they fit.
Yeah.
Some people try to mold themselves to fit in a space otherwise, but sometimes that unique person needs to stand out, and they may not have had that permission to do that. So again, where I've worked, done training with people in the corporate space and training and onboarding and things like that, the message that I always encourage people, especially young people, is, you know, be who you are, you know, shine from within. Don't let anyone kind of dampen that. And tap into your strengths. Some people, you know, you have people who are bold, who are assertive, which is wonderful, which is brilliant. We need people like that. We also have people who are maybe have not been encouraged to be that assertive or bold for whatever reason, which is fine. But they also have gifts that they may not feel are adequate, or, you know, society may not deem it as important. But it's important for those people to have a voice and a space, to be the healers, to be the illustrators, to be the poets, to be the designers, to be the filmmakers. You know, people like that who have got something to share as well. And I think as well, experiences that people have had which have been maybe quite difficult to handle, or so some people may have gone through a bit of trauma, or you know, very difficult childhoods growing up. They may find it cathartic to use writing to express that, to channel that into something beautiful, whether it's a poem or a film, or, you know, a painting. So it's important for those people to have a space.
Yeah, I mean, you're so right. You know, as you were speaking there, I'm thinking about, you know, what is often encouraged in the world, and the louder you are. I mean, you know, I must confess, I'm a bit loud, and, you know, a bit out there sort of thing.
Which is all good.
Well, yes, but I'm also, you know, increasingly aware of those folk who are quietly doing their thing, expressing themselves, making their way in the world. And I think there's increasing acknowledgement that, you know, we as a human race need the variety and the diversity of personalities and so on. When you work with young people, and I'm sort of guessing that it may be possibly easier to convey some of these positive messages about being who you are. And when you contrast that to working perhaps with older folk who may have had their life experiences and, you know, a few knockbacks along the way, who may be currently facing mega crisis and so on. What's been your observations of working at those two ends of the spectrum?
I think, I mean, when I think about the work with young people, sometimes they need someone to speak to. They may be going through something and they don't know how to articulate what they're feeling. And I've been in a position whereby they just come and they just start talking to me. I used to work in I was running a youth IT project in Lewisham, Borough of Lewisham. Worked with that project for 14 years.
Wow.
And even though the project was a IT based service, so, you know, they're coming for computer sessions. Sometimes they just came in just to chat about what happened at school, what happened in their day. Sometimes they talked about what happened at home, and I kept that confidential. But they needed that space. So I think where from that age group, it was finding someone they could connect to and open up and share, and then feel a sense of release, or just knowing that they can connect with someone who understands.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And likewise, working with adults or young adults who have, you know, come through to adulthood and have gone through certain experiences. Again, they may be talking about what they're currently expressing or experiencing, and then they may revert to something that's happened without me prompting. But I've just been a person who's actively listening and utilizing counseling skills just naturally, and showing empathetic understanding, but giving them that space to talk as well. And I did some work with a women's conference in Jamaica, the Every Woman Inspired project. And
I heard about that. Yeah.
Oh, you heard about it?
Yeah.
And I was part of that from the beginning, 2013, and I was there 2014 and 2015.
Wow.
And I did personal development workshops with using writing as the base. And one of the first sessions I did was getting people to write a script of their lives, the lives that they desire. But so whatever they've been through, whatever they want to aspire to, they write about that in the present tense, as if it's happening. But even though it may not have happened, that it gave people a way to kind of project to something that they were looking to.
Right.
The other thing that I've done, and that you may have done it as well, is to write a letter to your younger self. And I'd seen Tyler Perry he's got a video with that, and I showed that first of all, and then I think this was another session, and different year.
Mm-hmm.
But got them to, and then sometimes that can be difficult as well, but I encourage them to just let them know that whatever they've gone through, now everything's going to be okay. So just writing from that kind of space.
Yeah.
So sometimes that can be helpful. So there would, you have different ways of working with people. You have to kind of adapt to the stages that they're at in their lives.
Yeah, I mean, I like the fact that you have these multiple vehicles to sort of communicate with people. You know, you were running an IT club, but yet youngsters were able to come and, they came there to do IT, but there was also a listening ear, an empathic person on the other end who was able to kind of hear them and give them space. And I guess the writing, I use writing a lot to work things out. I mean, and work things out, I guess, and to be honest with what I'm feeling, even if it's crap.
Yes. Yes.
What do you think is so magical about writing? Because it is almost magical. What's your take on that? Why does that really help people?
I think one of the beautiful things about writing is that, you can either write about something factual, you can write something fictitious, write something that you want to happen, write something that is, some kind of magical fantasy type of thing. But it's what you're in control of what you're writing. And I think as well, you can, as well as getting everything out from you onto the paper, you can then be more creative and formalize it into something else. So you can create a poem, you could create an article, you could create a blog, but writing allows you to purge, if you like, what you have inside, but it also is powerful enough for someone else to receive it and take what they need from it. So it can be, inspire somebody as well. And it's there and it can stay there forever. Now we have, social media and, the internet, things can be around forever.
We hope.
So we hope. I did actually, there was a blog that I had many years ago. It's a blog.com or something like that. And I had these blogs. And the blog server went, it's also gone.
Exactly. Exactly.
So back everything up. That's the downside of writing, but always have backups.
Gosh, that must have been devastating.
It was. But lesson learned. But
I can hear the pain in your voice, Patricia.
It's like all the blogs I swelled over
you
them.
Sweated, yeah.
But
and, interestingly, I was speaking with a colleague of mine. Big shout out to Chantel, who was encouraging me because I like to write. Yeah, I like to write things down and then take it to the laptop. And she goes, "Oh, why don't you just work straight onto the laptop?" And having heard your story, that you see, this is another reason why it frightened me. At least when I write it down, it's there, and if I lose it on the older computer, I can go back to it. But
that's very true, and it's good that you do that, and there's also recording or dictating as well, and I have lots of those.
Good. Okay, so Patricia, tell us a bit about some of your I'm going to call them modalities, which is probably a bit of a posh word for your approaches, because I know you do Reiki healing and other things. So tell us a bit about those various forms of healing that you're engaged in.
Yeah. So with the Reiki healing, I so basically, if I go back to was it 2011? I'd been working with this IT project in a community, and then I was made redundant, so my job had gone. That was, you know, one of the things, working with a council. So I thought, well, I've got two things. I can either look for something similar or use this as a springboard to do my own thing, and with all the things that I'm passionate about. So I suppose I can be termed as a polymath. I have lots of interests. and
bingo.
And I, you got the polymath.
I tell you.
And one of the things that I, you know, felt that I was a healer, in whether that was something that I was fully aware of, or where I just kind of knew that people could connect with me, and I could say something and it would help. But I wanted to explore that further, so I looked at becoming a Reiki practitioner. Now, there are thoughts about the whole process, because some people, I'm a Christian, but some people who may see it as it's not a great thing to do. But my approach when I do it is to I focus more on connecting with God, and connecting, just using myself as a vessel only to heal someone else.
Sure.
And so still sort of building that up as much as possible. But you know, where I do Reiki healing, there have been some really transformational results, and people have commented on, you know, how it's helped them. So essentially my service is mobile, so I'm happy to go to people, and got me therapy, couch and everything, and then I would do it in the comfort of their own. I do it in the comfort of their own home. And so it's just so that they don't have to get up, so they can have that space and time to kind of, it's sort of a mini retreat in a way. And
in their homes. Wow. Okay. Wow, it's nice.
And then I'll have a little chat with them afterwards, and that's where the sort of counselling skills come in. Just putting things, so the chat can actually, sometimes we could start with the chat and then establish areas where the healing is required. So and sometimes when I do that, I pick up things about maybe where sort of the healing should be focused on, whether it's a mental or emotional or a physical aspect.
I mean, you are a holistic practitioner in that respect.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, which is crucial, really. Okay, cool.
Absolutely. And that just, dealing with the mind, body, spirit, because life affects us in so many ways. So as much healing as possible is required. I have to make sure I, you know, kind of heal myself, pray and everything before I can go to them. So and then sometimes I combine that with a coaching session as well. So I do a bit of Reiki and a bit of coaching. We'll start with the coaching and do a bit of Reiki. So establishing areas where they need, you know, where the goals that we want to focus on, and then if there are things that I have concerns about, use a Reiki to heal that. So that's something that I do and have done as well.
Lovely. I was going to perhaps come around now to thinking about my sector. Social workers, social work managers, leaders. You know, our profession is a tough one, and high levels of stress, high levels of burnout. And I mean, in a sense, that was one of the reasons I invited you to come and have a chat with us, because I don't know if you have any messages or any thoughts about our current world and the high levels of stress and burnout that exists. What are your thoughts about that whole situation? And I'm not necessarily specifically just talking about social workers. I think lots of people experience it. So, you know, what are your thoughts about, you know, the current world we inhabit, where stress and burnout and overload seem to be a significant factor?
I mean, in the profession, just to say to anyone working in the social work profession or the caring professions, you know, I salute you, applaud you, and it's not easy. And you can take some of that with you, take some of that home with you, whether you want it or not. And we've also just come through this horrific pandemic, and we're still in it, into some extent. And it's so important to create boundaries wherever possible. I think that's so important, just in terms of emotional boundaries. Help get in support with while you're working, from your colleagues, and then having a support system outside of work. You know, whether that's, you know, with your friends, your family, your partner, your spouse. It's creating that balance is so important. It's easier said than done. Easier said than done. Even if it means just paying attention to what you're eating. So sometimes we can be on the go. We are just going from A to B, and we're using every ounce of our energy to give. But we have to remember to give to ourselves, whether it's having a nice drink or smoothie, something, green smoothies, for example, something that's going to provide you nutrition, but also just paying attention to, you know, our iron levels. For example, as women, we have to do that. For those with, you know, with darker melanin levels, Black people, vitamin D is so vital. It came to my attention a few years ago. I was doing a raw food. I was on a raw food program with a practitioner called Darren Beepo, and he'd highlighted the fact that we, as Black people, we have a right to actually request a vitamin D test from our GP. And I don't think a lot of people know this or are aware of this, just to check if we're sufficient, or if our vitamin D levels are sufficient. And I went to my GP one day and I said, can I have a vitamin D test? And they said, who said you could do that? Or they were quite surprised. And I said, I know that I'm entitled to it. And, oh, okay. So they arranged it. Okay. But the things like that, our vitamin D levels could be very low. So it's so important to make sure that we get that checked and make sure we get in as much vitamin D as much as possible. Just even being by the window, being outside, going for a walk, if possible, even, you know, during your social work visits, maybe having lunch outside if it's possible, things like that. Sometimes when I'm at work and even if it's snowing, I'd wrap up, put my hood on, umbrella, and I sit outside.
You're committed in the snow. but one of the things I wanted to ask, and before I forget though, two of the things really. What happens to us when we are low in vitamin D? And I'm talking about people who of color. And also tell us a bit more about your veganism interests, because I noticed that's something else that you're into as well. And you've mentioned it there. So yeah, two things. What happens to us when we're low in vitamin D, and what's this stuff about veganism and raw food diets?
So we just, the vitamin D is important for, you know, our bone development, things like that. So, and also as Black people and those with darker skin, where our natural environment is sunny climes, having lots of sunshine. In the UK, we're not going to get that. I mean, I'm looking out the window now, I'm seeing clouds, no sunshine.
Yeah.
So
the usual.
we have to, yeah, exactly. So we have to overcompensate for that. We need to make sure we're topped up.
Yes.
Otherwise, we're just not going to function properly, even mentally, emotionally, we're not going to function properly. So, and then as a lot of people are aware from, you know, during the COVID period, season, those of us who were, well, COVID affected people, especially those who were deficient, in vitamin D. So one of the ways to fight that was to make sure your vitamin D levels are topped up. You can get vitamin D, things like mushrooms as well in terms of food. But I'm sure my husband won't mind me sharing this. He's diabetic, and so, but also both of us had COVID. He had it at the very beginning, but we just had to make sure that vitamin D was in that diet, and we also use vitamin D tincture, which is the 4,000 milligrams, the highest strength. That's it's so important to have that. You know, there were lots of health food shops. Go in there, have a chat with, especially the sort of holistic health well-being shops, and have a chat with the people working them, just to find out, you know, what's important. I do, and then going on to the veganism. I've been a vegan for 23 years.
Wow.
So showing my age now, when I was in my late 20s. So I'm 52. I'm proud of sharing that. Nice. And so I do ensure that sometimes I may eat something that I don't know is vegan, whether it's something from a family friend or family or friend, but essentially my diet is 100% vegan. So wherever, you know, it's making sure that I have the greens and the veggies are balanced. Even if I'm having veg, I'll try and have it raw. So like broccoli or spinach, just to make sure that I'm absorbing the nutrients that my body needs. And then I've actually focused on being a raw vegan as well, which is on another level. It's highly disciplined thing to do, but it's essentially where you're consuming vegan food, but it's hasn't been cooked. So the science of the thinking behind that is that when you cook food or cook vegetables, nuts, seeds, etc., you're losing a little bit of the nutrients through the cooking process. So the raw, the more it is in its natural state, your body will welcome that and appreciate that. So I try, well, you know, make sure that I do lots of smoothies, green smoothies. I use sea moss, Irish sea moss. It's very good as well. And if you combine sea moss and bladderwrack, that gives you I think it's basically all of the nutrients your body needs. It's not probably the nicest thing to taste, but
I didn't want to put that out there, but my father is a staunch believer in sea moss and all these other concoctions, concoctions. And we were recently in the Caribbean, and I said, oh God, let me have a taste. Oh my goodness, Patricia. The ting tastes bad, you say? But I hear you. And, you know, if your skin is impeccable.
Thank you.
And no doubt it's because of your lifestyle. You also, Yes, yes. I mean, but you also give advice on this, and this is also included in part of is one of your modalities, really, in terms of healing. How do people take to it?
Good question. I think my family and friends have had over 20 years to get used to me being a vegan. So whenever I go to, family functions or friends, they know in advance, okay, you're vegan, don't worry, we're gonna have that aside for you.
Oh,
so
good.
It's oh my gosh, I've got the best family and friends, and I'm just so fortunate. Or if we have a family function, I will do something vegan, but I'll make enough for everyone to have. My mother, I mean, when I became vegan, my mother was at the time, I think I was still living, I was maybe still living at home, but every Sunday our family meet at my parents' house. So sort of a typical Jamaican household, but my mum always has the vegan stir-fry veg
selection
aside.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so some of my nieces and nephews are vegetarian. I think I'm the only vegan in my family, my immediate family, but they embrace it. They,
well, my sister's going to really enjoy hearing that, because she and my niece are vegetarians. I don't think they're not vegans, but they are vegetarians. And my niece did that because of some health challenges, and then my sister said, she would join her. But it's so funny, in our family, she's always complaining that nobody gives a thought to us vegetarians. We always get the hard knock. But I mean, they're good cooks, and honestly, whenever they bring a dish to our family soirees, invariably everybody wants to eat what they've prepared, because they're so creative in terms of what they prepare and how they prepare it, and they're always exploring different tastes and what have you to sort of jazz up their food. So yeah, she'll be very happy to hear what you're saying. Your family have embraced it, and they cater for you and whatever.
Oh yeah,
that'll be back on us, no doubt.
And my husband is a vegan as well.
Oh, wow.
I mean, some people say, "Oh, did you encourage him to?" But he says he was exploring that before, and I'd known him for a few years before we got married. But our wedding cake was vegan. And,
oh wow!
And nobody actually could taste the difference. So the person we got to make it, she had never made a vegan wedding cake, so it was a bit of pressure, but she did an incredible job, and it was lovely. So nobody
all things
knew
are possible.
Yeah. So I've made vegan cakes, for my husband's birthday, and raw vegan desserts and things like that. So raw chocolate, all sorts of things. And I know when I've eaten them or done the raw vegan stuff, I feel more heightened and I feel more energized as well. Yeah.
Well, what lovely. I mean, I must confess, I've begun to eat far less meat. But because I'm not a connoisseur in the kitchen, my alternatives tend to be a little simple. But I'm getting there. I'm moving into trying to be a bit more experimental in the kitchen. So, but I mean, in a sense, this discussion really is about the importance of these aspects to one's life to help to combat things like stress, and anxiety and so on, which certainly from the world I come from, social care and social work, these are major issues. So, and this discussion really is still all about self-care. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing some of your experiences and some of the things that you're doing. Patricia, as we move towards sort of winding up, is there anything that you because I mean, I know we've only touched the surface in terms of, but time is always limited, and what I've tried to or what I've encouraged you to share are aspects of some of the things you do. It's not all of what you do. But as we move towards wrapping up, could you tell us a bit more about the work that you did in Jamaica? Because that piqued my interest, and then we can give our listeners a sense of how they can reach out to you and make contact and so on. But tell us a bit about your work in Jamaica.
Yeah, so I was approached by the organisers of Every Woman Inspired. I think they may have come across me because they saw a blog that I posted. So I'd written a blog, and they asked me if I wanted to take part or participate as a facilitator in their this women's conference that they were setting up. So everything was very new. So I said, yeah, and I had a meeting with them, and you know, it was done, you know, on a voluntary basis, but I have family out there, and the idea was to create a space for Jamaican women, you know, whether it's, you know, local women and returnees who are living in Jamaica, to have a space to develop, to engage with one another, and to receive support. We had a few challenges that there were some things that where somebody, I'm not going to go into too much detail, but somebody had what's the term? Is it usurped? Basically, we had a venue that we were going to use, and then the people who were providing this venue decided to take the idea that we were doing and do it themselves. So we had to go. We had to go somewhere else. So we ended up at a lovely hotel in Kingston. So we did that for a few days, and it was lovely. It was on a very small scale at that time, and then the next year we did it a lot bigger, and we did it was over 2 or 3 days in Ocherius in Jamaica, and it was a lot bigger, and we had a few more speakers, and we also had some local Jamaican speakers, professionals, which got on board, and it was a lovely time, and we had food, and food was put on as well. And the work that I did in both those first two were personal development workshops, hourly workshops, writing based, but getting women to the first one was looking at that was where we were focusing on writing a letter to your younger self, and writing the script of the life you desire, and those sessions worked really well. And then the next one I did was focusing on going through sort of transformational journey, and what that can entail, but using like a train as a metaphor. So you know, I got that women engaged with that, and then the next work, Every Woman Inspired, that was 2015. Again, I think it was at the same hotel in Ocherius. And we had more speakers on board. We also connect. There was one of the speakers was meant to be there from America, and she couldn't make it, so I set up Skype. I can't remember how I did it, but we got her in there. She was there in the space, you know, virtually. So that was before Zoom and everything.
Yeah,
so.
My gosh, yeah.
Yeah,
the old days.
But so again, it was just focusing on getting women to, you know, celebrate themselves. Again, using writing as a tool, but just getting us to, you know, just look at tapping into what we have within us. As well. So it was wonderful, again, just to connect with these amazing women, and the conferences, you know, I won't forget doing that, and of course got my family. I was able to see them as well in Jamaica, and it was also on, I think the very first one was on radio.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, so we did, people were able to tune in on the radio as well. Yes, but it was a wonderful experience. It really, really was.
Sounds fantastic. And I mean, you know, hopefully, as we move forward, you know, one can organize similar kinds of activities again.
Absolutely.
It's so gratifying when you work with your people overseas or in the Caribbean or in Africa or wherever.
Yes.
Yeah, and they're receptive to what you have to offer. So no, that sounds really brilliant.
Yeah.
Listen, young lady, I am going to I respect your time.
That's okay.
I know you're a busy woman and you have other things you need to be getting on with. Tell our listeners how they can follow you. Well, not literally follow you, but you know, follow your work, connect with you if they feel moved to do so. How can they do that, Patricia?
Sure. So the website address for my wellness and therapeutic training services is YouAreYou.co. So that's YouAreYou.co.
Yeah,
so
I'm looking at it right now. So yeah.
And then the Reiki services, it's YouAreYou.co/Reiki. So that will take you to the Reiki website. And then just for, you know, what I do generally with my writing, it's Patricia FosterMcKenley.com. So what you see, my name written down, Patricia FosterMcKenley.com.
Okay.
Okay. That's my website address. And then on Instagram, you can follow me on Patricia FosterMcKenley.
Okay, excellent. What I will do, Patricia, is put all that information in the show notes, so that when people listen to the podcast, they can just click on the various links and make the connection. Oh,
wonderful.
Thank you so much, my dear, for spending some time with us today. It's been really interesting.
Absolute pleasure.
Yeah. I mean, as I say, I know we've only scratched the surface, but at least we've scratched. So yes, you know, it's been great speaking with you, Patricia. And
it's been lovely speaking with you, Sylvia.
Yeah, no doubt we can reconnect again in future. If you have any forthcoming events or you know, anything that you want us to know about, please do feel free just to ping me, and then
we
can get the word out and possibly have another chat if it's necessary. All right.
You're more than welcome.
So thank you.
Take care. You're welcome. Thank you, Sylvia. Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye.